Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. I made it through another 24 hours. It was touch and go there. I'm here to talk about, once again, I now have figured it out what the purpose of the Mandela Effect is. And when you hear what I have to tell you, you will be happy and excited and relieved. And indeed, we are in fact caught between two timelines. We will have to make a choice, I believe, this year. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Whoops, sorry, I am back. I got to tell you, this was rough. The past 12 hours have been pretty good because I figured it out. But I have to tell you, after however many it's been, it's been a 24, 30, 36 hours or something like that. I was having a real tough time. And it's because of the Mandela Effect. And again, I'm new to all of this. I got so, what happened is that I got a divorce in 2012. And my life went to crap, and I ended up literally living in a tiny one-bedroom cabin in the middle of the forest of North Idaho, just south of Canada, off of literally, on a dirt road miles away from even a highway, something like 10 or 20 miles from the nearest town. And then from there, I moved back to my hometown trying to get myself together. I was poor as hell. I had no money. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I started working on this channel and writing books, and then I got involved and fell in love with a woman who turns out has had breast cancer, and then I watched her die. And then I fell apart. And the point is that I just didn't give a crap about anything except what was meaningful to me. I didn't follow any of the trends. I had to make a living. And I refused to, an out-of-work ex-actor, an ex-martial arts teacher, an ex-musician, drum instructor. There's just not a whole lot of jobs for that. Even though I'm more educated, I've literally had 8 years of college. I've got the equivalent of a master's and a doctorate with all of my studies in and out of college. Even though all of that, there's not a whole lot of jobs for somebody with my pedigree. And, and then I was lucky enough to hightail it to Australia, and all I had to do was surf and make videos, and I didn't give a crap about anything else. And all this other stuff was going on with the lockdown and with, apparently this stuff with the Mandela Effect's been going on, since 2009, apparently, when it was first found out. And I just didn't care. I'm a very practical person, and I still live my life by critical thinking. I still do, believe it or not, I still do. In fact, everything having to do with my new friends here is completely focused on critical thinking. And all of the conclusions I come to are filtered through my critical thinking, believe it or not. So I didn't know about this. And when I found out about it, you guys were here as I talked about it. It was very frightening and devastating to me. And it devastated me because I couldn't make sense of anything anymore. And my anchor was in history. Even though I'm not a scientist, I still appreciate science and scientific principles, all of that. And all of that went out the window. And the one that really pushed me over the edge was finding out that the human heart is no longer on the left side of the chest. That's the one that pushed me over the edge. That and the scripture the lion shall lie down with the lamb completely disappeared and was replaced with the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, which is not even close. I mean, it's not even close. I just lost it. Those were two things that I can't gaslight myself out of. Those were true in my past. And so I was stuck with this reality of I don't know what the truth is. I started losing it. And there were some moments where I really thought, I think it's time to just end this one. This is file not found. I can't make this work. I can't do it. And I asked my friends for some help. So I said, listen, you guys are kind of the reason this all happened to me. So I need your help. And of course, every time I meditate and reach out to them, they always show up. And they showed up and they literally went inside my heart and I'm not kidding, went and turned things around. I mean, I felt energy twisting around, and then they said I had to twist my body to a certain position before I got out of bed, because I had to align my body with the energy that they had shifted. And sure enough, after about, I woke up depressed and suicidal, and what am I going to do now, and how do I function now? And then I started realizing, my thought was, I'm not going to look at any of this Mandela effect anymore. I'm just not going to do it. I got to get on with my life. It is so traumatic for me to find out everywhere I turn now that all of my experiences weren't real, and I don't know what is real anymore. I don't think I'm crazy. I don't feel like I'm crazy, but I'm living, literally, this is the kind of shit that put people in hospitals. They lock people up for the kind of shit that I do. Talking to higher dimensional beings, and I was kind of already there anyway. Spirit fighting and meditation and out of body and all that, and change your timeline. Even though I was really talking more metaphorically than anything else. But now, I not only talk to, I physically interact with higher dimensional beings that come into my home, beam into my home, and take over my radio. And not only that, but I remember a completely different timeline. I remember when my heart and every human person in existence, if they were born normally, their heart was literally in right here, which is why people do this. That's not the case anymore. Where do I go from that? How do I teach about traditional spirituality if there's no such thing as history? Anyway, I was in a bad way. But I figured it out. With the help of my friends and my inability to not think about this problem, I had to think about it. The only way out is through. But in case you're not so clear on it, let me just list some things. And these are the things that I either absolutely, totally fucking remember, or these are things that I'm pretty sure about. There's a bunch of others, like the Zapruder film and other things like that, that I honestly can't say, Mandela himself, I honestly can't say that I would have known one way or another. Run you fools or fly you fools. I can't honestly say, do I really know? Okay, that is something I could have missed. The Barbie world, a Barbie world. But these things I absolutely know without a doubt happened. By the way, I can see some comments here. Okay, yeah, so just to let you guys know, I'm really only interested in questions. Let's try, anyway. Questions and honest feelings, please, I encourage you. And at some point, I will ask you to put some things in the comment section just for fun. In any case, here are things that I know, or I am feel quite certain did happen, which are either non-existent or very different. Luke, I am your father. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Apparently he never said that. Here's one, just to give you an example of, I think it was yesterday. Yesterday I'm like, you know what? I'm being influenced by either YouTube videos or articles on Google that say Mandela Effect. And then I'm reading and I'm getting flipped out over the ones that I realize. And I go, you know what? I'm just going to think of something really iconic about the 80s. And I'm going to look that up. And I thought, I said, oh yeah, Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come. See, I'm going to find it and that's going to be there. And sure enough, nope, build it and they will come has turned into build it and he will come. We are the champions of the world. Apparently, the song ends just by we are the champions. By the way, I lived in that time. These are things I lived through. So if you're older, if you're younger than me, like, you were born in the 90s or 2000, you don't know because you weren't born then. I was. I lived through it. These were things, we memorized this shit. There's no way that we would forget that the main theme of that movie that he hears in his head is build it and they will come. There's no fucking way we misheard that. There's no way. Kevin Costner himself is on camera in the 90s or whatever it is saying, it was something, it's an iconic phrase that we all say now, build it and they will come. You can hear him say it. You can hear, as you've heard me say, you can see the character that played Darth Vader twice on camera decades ago saying, when I first read the script and it said, Luke, I am your father. Let's see. Play it again, Sam. Apparently, he never said that. The Monopoly Man's monocle has disappeared. Here's one I just found out today. Again, if somebody, my neighbors were around, they would have heard me screaming at the top of my lungs, oh my fucking God. Sweet dreams are made of these. Nope. Sweet dreams are made of this. What? Here's another one. Freddy Krueger's sweater is red and black. Right? He wears a black hat. Red and black stripes. Nope. He wears a fucking green hat. And he wears Christmas colors. Red and green. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. The lion will lie down with the lamb. I've already talked about that one. Hello, Clarice. Ubiquitous. Never happened. Mirror, mirror on the wall. That in the movie is magic mirror on the wall. C-3PO's golden body. This is what, I'm going to use this. I'm going to prove to you what is going on. I'm going to prove to you that all of this isn't what I thought it was, which was really, really fucking me up. I thought that something had happened, the universe had broken, and all of these timelines were crashing into each other. But C-3PO's golden body from Star Wars is going to show you that's not the case. This is a crafted message from people who are trying to help us. The Ford logo, that one is Tinkerbell in the Disney intro, of course. The Scarecrow's gun, he didn't have a gun when I watched that movie every single fucking year. In the 60s and 70s as a kid, he never had a gun. I guarantee you. Fly, my pretties, fly. That's no longer being said by the Wicked Witch of the Wizard of Oz. And of course, the heart being on the left side of the body. You guys know more than I do. Again, I've just picked the ones that I know for a fact I remember. Especially, today, sweet dreams are made of these. I was in college when that song was a hit. People walked around singing that song. I promise you, the little 18 and 19-year-old girls that were at my college who used to sing that song all the time, they would have known, they would have had the lyrics. They don't do this now. This is an old man thing. In the 70s and 80s, when you got an album, or if you got a cassette tape, because that's all we had, you would then, if it was an album, you would pull it out and there would be a sheet that had the lyrics because you wanted to know what the lyrics were. If you got the cassette, you would pull the cassette out and there would be this insert you pull out, and in the insert would have the lyrics. I promise you, those little 18, 19, 20-year-old girls that walked around singing, "Sweet dreams are made of these," they would have known what the actual lyrics were, and they would have corrected anybody that was wrong. There are parodies, you can find them on YouTube, called Sweet Dreams Are Made of Cheese. Why would they come up with that? Let's just look at the lyrics as they stand. Sweet dreams are made of this. Sweet dreams are made of these. You and I may disagree, or something like that. I traveled the world over the 7 seas. What in that rhymes with this? Sweet dreams are made of this. You and I something disagree. I traveled the world in the 7 sis. It doesn't make sense, is my point. This is the theme you want to look for. The things that are different don't fit right. They don't make sense. Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. This was a Disney movie in 1954. Now, as I said earlier, there was an existing story, an existing fairy tale, and everybody, because I was a kid, and maybe people don't do it now. These are things that people don't talk, that it's not part of our everyday parlance, but all little kids knew Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Everybody knew it. My point being is that Disney would not make that movie and change that. The whole idea was to get little kids and parents and grandparents who remembered that all into that, because otherwise the parents are going to go, what the hell is that? So everybody that remembers that movie and remembers the witch in that saying "Mirror, Mirror on the Wall," you would have remembered if it was said differently. Hello, Clarice. That wouldn't have become a meme if he didn't say it. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. I can see it in my head. I can see him and I can hear him saying it. It wouldn't have become a saying if it hadn't happened. It wouldn't. Play it again, Sam. That's from the 30s or something. I've heard that my whole life. How could anybody take something as iconic as that? Play it again, Sam. If it didn't happen. It doesn't make sense. All right. So I'm going to blow your mind because I have proof. I have proof that C-3PO did not have a silver shin. Because that's the weird thing. C-3PO's body is all golden except for the right shin. Let's take a look, shall we? So I've got, let's get the film here. So here's the film. I think I can talk through this. Okay, there he is. Let me see. Can I pause this? Okay, hang on. Yep. Let's go back a little bit. Okay, right there. You can see he's got a silver right shin. This is, I believe this is from the first Star Wars. Which just in and of itself doesn't make any sense, because if you look behind him, what do we see? We see another same kind of droid as C-3PO, and he's completely made of silver. This doesn't make any sense. Right off the bat, this doesn't make any sense, right? This is obviously designed to catch your attention. If you are a fan of Star Wars and you see this, you're going to go, what the fuck is that? Okay, let's keep going. Now, take a look at that. There is in some, I don't know where this is. This is some museum somewhere. I don't know what it is, but it looks to me like this is the kind of thing somebody would put up when they would say, here is the original wardrobe. Here's C-3PO, here's R2-D2, and C-3PO does not have a silver shin. Does that make any sense that that would be there? That whoever put that up would have missed that? Doesn't make any sense to me. It looks out of place. If he had, if that was the original movie and he had a right shin, this would be a faux pas that would be completely unacceptable. Let's keep going. All right, sorry, I paused that. It's going to move. I put this film together earlier today. Okay, this is the first, I believe, or I don't know what it is. This is a collection of toys. There's C-3PO. He obviously does not have a silver leg. He doesn't have a silver leg in any of these. Do you see it? I don't see it. There is, look right there, vintage C-3PO, first 12, Kenner, 1978, I believe. Do you see a silver right shin? Do you really think that the toy company that came out with the first toy for Star Wars, do you really honestly think that they would forget that? Little kids would go through the roof. But it doesn't stop there. Okay, let's keep going. There, look. Do you see any silver? I don't see any silver. That is the original. Somebody's had it for a while. That's the original C-3PO. Okay, here's the actual smoking gun. That is a photograph from the set of, I don't know which one it is. The one with the you know, the little Wookiees, whatever the hell you call those things. Do you see a silver leg? That is a photograph on the set. It was taken when they were filming. I don't see any silver leg there, do you? That to me is the smoking gun that proves it. We were all right. Those of us who remembered him being 100% golden bodied, we were right. This is the behind the scenes documentary from and that's the actual set of the movie. That is from the 70s. Do you see a silver right shin? I don't. Here's a doll, a C-3PO bobblehead doll. All right, this right here, I pulled this up today. This is a 2006 Star Wars. This is where it gets weird and confusing. This is from 2006. And here we have a C-3PO with a silver leg. So the Mandela Effect had been retroactively taken effect 2006. I took this picture just before coming on. This is from Etsy. This is an original 1978 C-3PO. Do you see any silver on his leg? So do you see the difference? In 2006, he has a silver leg. In 1978, the original He does not have a silver leg. All right, so what's the point of all of that? It's a very good question. I have to be grateful. C3PO is what helped me realize what's going on. So as you know, I used to be an actor. I acted in films, I acted in television, I acted on the stage. I had my own theater in Hollywood. I had my own theater in Hollywood, California, and I acted on the main stage. I wrote, I directed, I taught acting classes, I wrote screenplays, I made a movie myself. When was that? 2000, had to have been probably 2000. I made my own movie, cast it, write it, directed it, filmed it, I did the whole thing myself. And here's the deal. There is no way in hell that a Hollywood movie, like a Hollywood movie back in the 70s that got onto the big screen, there is no way in hell that something as weird as a right shin that was silver when the guy has a golden body, there was no way that would end up in a film if somebody didn't put it in the dialogue. Because one of the things that costume designers do is they read the script. And they read the script, they talk to the writers, they talk to the actors, they talk to the set designers, they talk to everybody involved, and from that, they are told what to do, and they come up with their own designs. There's no way in hell a costume designer would create that if he wasn't told to do it. So that means if C3PO has a right silver shin on a golden body in a brand new movie that nobody's ever seen before, and there's no way that would happen unless the director, who happens to be the writer as well, the writer-director, unless the writer-director comes to them and says specifically, I want this droid to have one silver right shin. And on top of that, he would have wrote it into the script for the obvious reason that anybody watching it would go, why does he just have one right shin? Now, if that had happened, that would have gotten in all of the trade papers. If it happened in the 70s, it would have been the thing that set him apart. They would go, C3PO. Oh yeah, that's that droid with the silver right shin. What is the story behind that? It never happened. And that's what dawned on me. What dawned on me is that what is going on is that somebody from the future has gone back in time. And I don't know if they're higher dimensional beings. I don't know what they are. But somebody from the future has gone back in time and has changed things that are iconic, that everybody's going to notice. They had to have been, now, because I've just been through it, and bear in mind, I'm a fringe dweller, spiritual, supernatural kind of guy. And even I literally could not believe what I was finding out. I couldn't process it because it was just so impossible. The only way that I could process it is I had to figure out what was going on. And my first thought was that something horrible had happened, that the universe that I came from has collapsed. And I've been shifted over into another timeline. Well, that wouldn't make any sense unless it was something like, the heart's always been in the center, the sun has always risen from the west, not the east. You know, those kinds of things, that's a complete shift into another dimension. And everybody else, I mean, another timeline, and everybody else agrees with it. No, the sun has always come risen in the west and set in the east. You're crazy. You small group of people are nuts. It's not happening like that. It's happening only in iconic things that have to do with people's consciousness. That doesn't have anything to do with the laws of nature, other than the heart moving. That's a big one. But other than that, you know, everything else is exactly the same. And the other thing is this, is that I'm noticing that all of the songs that I listen to from my youth, because that's pretty much what I listen to. I listen to 70s and 80s, you know, hard rock and punk rock and speed metal, and that's, you know, that's what I listen to. None of that has changed, not one of them. Paranoid, Black Sabbath Paranoid is exactly the same. Judas Priest, you know, The Ripper is exactly the same. All of the stuff that I listen to is exactly the same, but even though the stuff I listen to is well known, it's not iconic. Play it again, Sam. Why is it that that is the thing that changed in the movie? You know, it could have been her shoes changed. Could have been something that nobody gives a crap about. And that's what I realized. I realized that if what had happened is that there was some random crashing of timelines, then you would have just a hodgepodge in absolutely everything that you could imagine. And that hasn't happened. It's only happened in big things having to do with movies, music, you know, the presidential assassinations, you know, things that are iconic that everybody would know. And I realized why. It's because, just like me, people's instinct is to make sense of things. So if it's just one thing, Freddy Krueger's sweater is red and green, that's not how I remember it, but I mean, I must have remembered it wrong. I was messed up about the Disney opening with Tinkerbell. I mean, that messed me up, but it just kept getting worse because I started to gaslight myself into it. No, actually, maybe that's what it was. Maybe I'm just misremembering. It was a long time ago. I mean, I know that wasn't what it was, but, you know, little things like mirror, mirror on the wall, magic mirror on the wall, you know, it's iconic enough that it's going to get inside and it's going to be an itch that you can't get rid of. It's going to be like, you know, I remember being 5 years old and seeing that. I remember being 10 years old and seeing that. And the most recent one, I forgot to put it on this list here, but I talked about it yesterday, which is, Oops, I Did It Again. The video with Britney Spears. Again, if you look at it, it's awkward. Now, I wasn't attached to that. If that was the only thing that happened, and somebody asked me before I saw it, if they said, in this video, was Britney Spears wearing a microphone and a headset, I would have gone, yeah, that's how I remember it. And if they were to show it to me, I would have gone, oh, well, okay. I mean, I could have swore I saw it, but you know what? I must have conflated it with her live performances. Anyway, I don't care. What time is it? But for some people, obviously, that's a big deal. I know there's some people who, you know, want to blow their brains out over that. But the thing about it that convinced me was two things. First one is it's awkward because if you look at her hairdo, it has been plastered back behind her so that her ears are literally hanging out like this. Her ears, I mean, it's just weird. It's not sexy. And the whole thing about her at that was being sexy. It wasn't sexy. It was just weird looking. And it's obvious that somebody is trying to highlight this area of her head and her face. And then the smoking gun for that is at 2 minutes. Is it 2 minutes 34 or 2 minutes 43? she adjusts the microphone that's not there. Adjusting a microphone that's not there and having, one of the most iconic movie pictures in your head, which is C-3PO's golden body with the right shin being silver. That gets in underneath your skin. Your first instinct is going to gaslight yourself out of it. Because when you realize, no, that is the official video. That is exactly what, and we can prove it. That is what Britney Spears did. Your survival instinct is going to kick in and go, okay, yeah, that must have been, that's weird, but anyway. But when you have Luke, I am your father, disappearing, that's going to get into somebody's under their skin, and their defense mechanism won't be able to gaslight them out of it. But it won't be enough to destroy the world. Because what I'm realizing is if the timelines came crashing together like I thought, it would destroy the world again. There would be riots, there would be murders, there would be mass suicide, there would be people driving on the wrong side of the road, there would be people doing things that they did in the other timeline that'll get you killed in this timeline. You've got 3 or 4 or 5 different timelines with different, suns going in different directions and, people speaking different languages. That shit didn't happen. Everything is exactly the same except for this really iconic stuff. And the stuff that has changed that has to do with like the physical body, it is a positive change. It is actually, that's a good evolutionary move. To have, this is not the most ideal place to have the chest, the heart. That's not and in all of the movies, you get stabbed in the heart means here. In fact, I don't know how many times I've done that through my life, joking around when somebody says something that, supposedly hurts my feelings. I go, it's iconic, but that's a good shift. But somebody's definitely trying to get our attention, but they're not trying to harm us. Because the other thing that I thought was, okay, either the timelines are crashing into each other, and that you saw what that did to me. That destroyed me. Because that's bad. That is really bad. If the timelines are chaotically crashing into each other and there's no rhyme or reason to it, it spells disaster. It is horrible. It is very, very, very bad. It couldn't get worse. It's the worst possible scenario. And but that's not what's happening. If it was that that's the first idea. It's just this chaotic crash of timelines. That isn't the case, or things would be much different. In fact, we'd be dead already. We would, the world would already have blown up. It'd be over. So that, number one, that's out. Number two, the elite. I may have talked about this yesterday in my haze. The elite may have some powerful weaponry that gives them the ability to screw with the timeline, to change the past. And they're changing iconic things. That was my first thought. So by having Nelson Mandela live instead of die, and for some, JFK's assassination was obviously something that was manufactured to shift the timeline. They went in and shifted it again. What the hell does that mean? But then I realized that there's so much stuff in it that's just meaningless. How does changing, oops, I did it again, from her having a headset to not having a headset, and yet they're so bad at it, they didn't clean up the fact that she's adjusting a non-existent microphone. What the hell is going on with them that they give a crap whether C-3PO's right shin is silver. They couldn't clean that up. You know, the things that didn't make sense, that are just that. They're tiny, insignificant details to the running of the world that are supposed to get your attention. But there has to be enough of them to get past two forces are going on here. The first one is, as I said, your mind wants to find order. So once you realize that what you remember didn't actually happen, you will gaslight yourself out of it just to stay sane. You will do that, which is what's happening. When you go on and you see the Mandela Effect, and people, usually people born, you know, in the past 30 years who don't have the first fucking clue what was going on way back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you'll hear them gaslight you, and they'll say, you know, many people remember this, but you know, we often misremember stuff. You know, like this song now doesn't make any fucking sense at all, but that's because that's the way they originally wrote it. So it doesn't, it just became so clear. The Ford logo, 1912, it's over 100 years old. Are you fucking telling me that the most iconic automobile logo in the history of automobiles, that's it? There is nothing. The Ford was it. And you're going to tell me that car enthusiasts are making they're misremembering. There's one guy, he has a whole video on it, and he remembered his uncle who worked at a Ford factory, and his uncle used to give him Ford logos, and he would collect them. And he says that was never there. That curlicue thing was never there. And he'd get people together, normal people, people in the car industry, and he'd put them both, and he'd say, which one is correct? And they'd always pick the one without the little fucking curlicue on it. It's such a minor thing that everybody knows about. And yet, the other force, the first is your instinct to survive is going to gaslight you out of these things, because you have to get on with your life or you blow your fucking brains out. The other one is that it literally has now been changed in the past. The past has been changed. That is a reality. And so that ripple effect is going to ripple into you. And I experienced that with the Disney logo thing. And the Ford logo, to be honest. But the Disney logo thing, as you know, you saw that that was really bothering me. And I watched it over and over again. I watched what was supposedly the opening of the one when I was a kid. And the more I watched it, I started going, yeah, I think now I remember it that way. It's because I was being influenced by the ripple of the reality of the new past. It ripples back up into you. So that's why you have people who go, no, the heart has always been in the middle of the chest. And then there are people like me that are like, that doesn't make any sense. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? Why do we do this? That's what I mean. It doesn't make sense. They didn't clean that part up. They didn't clean up the part of the original. I mean, if this was done by the elite, they would have gone back in time and they would have fixed all of the Kenner 1978 dolls of C-3PO. They would have fixed that. They would have gone in and they would have fixed the photograph, the set photograph of C-3PO standing there on the set. They would have fixed that. They didn't. They would have fixed, it was a simple fix. They would have fixed Britney Spears adjusting the microphone. They didn't fix it. The reason why they didn't fix it is because they were actively planning. They were looking for ways to show you to get underneath your survival mechanism and the vibration of the new past which would change literally your memories in your brain. They were putting stuff in there that didn't make sense, so that you would go, but that doesn't make sense. And you would go, the one that I remember makes more sense. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world in the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something. That makes sense. Sweet dreams are made of cheese. That makes sense because it rhymes with these. Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world in the 7 seas. I mean, this is a huge song that there were promoters, there were editors, there were writers, there were studio heads, there were really egotistical, very perfectionist artists. Anybody would have looked at those lyrics and gone, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't we just change that to these? This has been done on purpose. It's been done on purpose to get your attention. So that was the first thing. It dawned on me. I kid you not, I cried for a half an hour. I was so grateful that, oh my God, it's a message. I didn't imagine that. Those things really happened the way that I remember. It's not a different timeline. It's this timeline. It's the same timeline. All of my friends, this was the other thing that was really starting to bother me. My teacher, whom I've known for almost 30 years, remembers things differently. It was traumatic. Oh my God, this isn't the same guy. The people that I know, my friends, they're not the same people. My body isn't the same body. I don't know who I am. It was really traumatic. To realize that this was done intentionally to send us a message. I wept for a half an hour. I was so grateful that I figured it out. And then I said, okay, so they got my attention. Now what's the message? The message is very clear. It's a twofold message, probably more. Twofold message is, number one, wake the fuck up. Something is wrong. Wake up. Something is very wrong. You cannot live your life. Your life is not normal anymore. You are not just a person in a fixed 3-dimensional reality that follows rule. You are no longer in that world. Wake up. The second message is undeniably clear. If we can change your past, you can change your future. Wake up. Shift. The heart. Shifting to where? I can tell you this without a doubt. I know that I said this many, many times. It was said to me in yoga classes and meditation classes. People put their hands on their heart, and people would joke around and they'd put their hands over here, and people go, no. And then teachers would say, the heart center is right here. The heart chakra is right here. The middle dantian is right here. Even though the heart is over here, we don't bring the energy directly into the heart. I said that. We don't bring the energy directly into the heart. We bring the energy right here. Because people would ask stupid questions like, well, how come we don't bring the energy over here? But the message of that is very clear. The shift that is coming is going to shift you and align you to your heart center. I mean, we didn't get like an eyeball down here or 3 nostrils. Those things didn't, we didn't get, bent more out of shape. The heart went more towards the center. The heart is aligning itself. The message is very clear. It also means listen to your feelings. Align yourself with your feelings. You have been out of alignment with your emotions. Align yourself back into your feelings. into your spiritual heart center. So now I'm excited. I had to get over it, but now I'm excited. And I'll tell you why first off, it makes me so happy to know this isn't a different timeline. It's the same timeline. Some of you remember things differently than me, that's fine. It's one or both of us are being influenced by the change in the history that is vibrated up into us, and we've aligned with that vibration. That's fine. Most of us know. And the reason why is this, again, my teacher remembers some things differently, but there are some things he remembers. Like when I said the lion will lie down on the lamb, he said, what? And he remembered that was the original scripture, not the one. So he scratched his head. And so it's only natural that some people are going to remember the changes as being real. And some people are going to remember more of the original things than others. I feel like I remember more of the original things than others. And definitely people who were born after, 2000, they're going to be aligned with the newer stuff, for sure. Because for them, they were born in that alignment. I'd be really interested to know when this actually happened. A lot of people have hypothesized 2012, except for the fact that Mandela supposedly died, in the 80s. And people remembered it in 2009. So I don't know about that, but in any case, there's the message. We can leave it at that. I'm happy to take any questions. This is a question and answer. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps, please. Please do what I ask. It makes me happy. Because you know what happens when you don't do things the way I understand, I get suicidal. So in order to prevent me from getting suicidal, please follow my requests so that I keep my bald head on my shoulders. And if you don't have a question, I'm happy to hear your feelings. I'm hesitating because there was something I did want to ask. Does somebody remember what specific episode of I Love Lucy Ricky says, Lucy, you got some splaining to do? Does anybody remember what the exact episode was? I want to find out where that line was. I want to hear it and hear how it got changed or dropped. I want to see that. I don't have any other questions, so I will just leave it at that. And I don't need to. I'm right about that too. Okay, that's it. Let's see what we got in terms of questions. Somebody threw down $100. Who was that? That was BoneMan538. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the support. Thundra Gucharan says hello. She is thundra.thunderwizard.com. You can go find her at that. She is one of my certified astrologers, and she has a bunch of other stuff that she gives out. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, same thing. He is one of my astrologers, but he's got his own stuff, including time rectification and a bunch of other stuff. Go check him out. And then we have Patrick.thunderwizard.com. Same thing, but he's got his own stuff. He, I don't know, do you do Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine or just the acupuncture, as well as the Vedic astrology? He's actually, and these astrologers, by the way, all of them took my course, were certified in it. They know how to do my reading. And the reason I do it that way is because these are things that you will be able to use for the rest of your life. You can go get all kinds of readings, certain transit shifts and all of that, which are constantly changing. When's a good time to get married and start a business? You can get all kinds of readings like that. I said, I want to give people a Vedic reading that they can use for the rest of their life. One reading that they never have to, worry about changing. And these people have been trained in that, so they will give you that. You won't find that anywhere else. There's nobody else that gives you what I put into this specific reading, which I put together because I was sick and tired of getting readings that didn't apply. But each one of these people has gone beyond what I've taught them, and they've got very valuable information, stuff I don't even know. I don't know how to do birth rectification time. I don't know how to do that. So check these guys out. Thundra.thunderwizard.com, Vincent.thunderwizard.com, Patrick.thunderwizard.com. Let's see what else. Looking for the questions here. So Kemsel, welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please write the word question, and please write out a full question that makes sense. You go, what about them is different exactly? I have no idea what that means. You have to actually put a verb and a subject and an object and assume that I don't know what you're talking about, because your question is important. If I don't understand it, how can I answer it for you? So try again. What else? Bone Man 538, question. Serious, by the way. All right then. Is the orgasm an energy that must be contained so that your Qigong and other practices, we can channel it inwards and upwards to our crown? So Bone Man 538, forgive me, but it makes me think you haven't practiced what I teach. Am I wrong about that? It also tells me that you haven't watched a lot of my videos, because I talk about this. In fact, I have at least couple of videos on this, on retention. So to answer your question, for the non-Mao Shan Qigong, which is basically any Qigong other than what I teach. So if you go learn Qigong anywhere else, what will happen is they will tell you that you need to be celibate for whatever is 40 days or something like that. And then you know, if you really want power, you have to stay celibate and you have to raise the blah, 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 blah. The reason I don't teach that is because in the Mao Shan, you don't need to do that. For a bunch of reasons, but one of them is we're dealing with the lightning center of the heart, which is in the middle of the chest, in case you didn't know that. The heart is in the middle of the chest, and it's surrounded by the lightning there. And so it's not Jing to Qi to Shen. If you follow that path, you're going to have to retain. If you do my path, you don't have to do that. Now, what you're talking about is even worse, because it's destructive. And that is, you sexually stimulate yourself, and then when you have an orgasm, you try and hold it back, or you try and, you know, press the magic button or do whatever to keep it inside of you. That is destructive. Do not do that. So in my Qigong, just be a normal person. You know, go enjoy your girlfriend or boyfriend. In this case, I'm assuming you're a guy. Go enjoy your girlfriend, or release when necessary. You know, when you got to take a dump, what do? Do you hold it in? No, you release it. These things need to be released. So short answer to your question is no, you don't need to worry about any of that ridiculous nonsense about containing the orgasm, the blood. Okay? No, just be a normal human, practice it, and you'll be just fine. What else? Jedi Black. Okay, that's not a question. That's not a question. Kemsil, welcome to the channel. This is a question and answer. This is my university classroom. People come and ask me a question. It's not a free-for-all. I don't want you giving somebody else an answer to their question to me, because it's going to very likely be different, which means you're getting in the way of my ability. It's also, you're giving people unsolicited advice. I know it happens on every other freaking thing, but on every other, you know, people's channel, everybody comes in and says their thing. But we don't do that on my channel, so I ask that you respect that. If you have a question, please ask it. If you want to make a statement on your channel, go right ahead. But unless somebody asks you personally, please don't muddy the waters. So I'm going to remove that what he just said there. Who am I to disagree? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so just know, Dre Shiva and others, if you cuss, YouTube will hide your comments. So I'm going to show that one, but just to let you know in the future, just avoid that so that they don't hide your questions. He says something is new within the last 2 years. I don't know what he's talking about, but that makes me think, are these things... Here's the other thing. If that's happening, because it feels that way to me, it feels like things are shifting, shifting, as we go. Like new ones are popping up, even if they're 40 years old, they pop up out of nowhere, seemingly, which creates all kinds of questions about time and blah, 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 blah. But that shows me that they are actively trying to get our attention now. Wake up, wake up, change your future, wake up. And that also tells me that it's pretty serious because it's everywhere. There's got to be thousands and thousands of these really serious changes and shifts that don't make any sense. And again, they're targeting the ones that everybody knows. They're not targeting, the popular but still sort of underneath. They're not, like I said, like I first thought, how come none of my Black Sabbath songs haven't been changed? Well, the reason is because if a bunch of, ex-hippies from the 70s or, stoners now who listen to Black Sabbath, hey, man, that lyric is totally different, man. People are going to be like, yeah, go smoke some weed. They're not going to pay any attention. But when everybody says, play it again, Sam, he didn't say that? What? C-3PO has a right silver shin? While we're on that, why don't I read to you something that I saw? So, Anthony Daniels is the actor who played C-3PO. I guess he did the voice too. I don't know. I thought that there were two different guys, but apparently he did the voice. Now this is from, when is this from? December 10th, 2020, Showbiz Cheat Sheet, whatever the hell that is. It's entitled Star Wars Anthony Daniels revealed why C-3PO does in fact have one silver leg. Now, why has that article not been written? Why did it take until December 10th, 2020 for somebody to write an article about why C-3PO only has one silver leg? I'll tell you why. This is the deep state. Because these messages are fucking. I mean, I now realize that what I thought was the deep state is changing history to make people confused so that they can be manipulated. Because I felt really like unsure, and I was thinking, man, if somebody else that didn't know about this was in this, they could be so easily manipulated. Except that if they were going to do that, there are so many other things they could have done that could have accomplished what they wanted. Changing the leg of C-3PO accomplishes nothing for them except making people realize that the timeline is shifting, that time is relative, that there is it gets them thinking in supernatural ways they wouldn't have thought. In fact, as I've been going through this, there have been numerous people, like Star Wars fans. There's been a few videos of Star Wars fans. And one, I wanted to show it to you. I decided against it. But some guy on his camera, I don't know when this was. This was way back 10 or so years ago. And his camera is filming the part where Darth Vader says, "No, I am your father." And he goes, "What the fuck? What the fuck? I've been watching this for 20 years, and blah, 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 blah." And then he starts thinking, oh my God, reality is shifting. There's no such thing. And somebody else said the same thing. Reality is shifting. There's no way. And these are people who aren't spiritual. So this is having the effect of waking up the sleeping people, which is the opposite of what the deep state wants. So let me read this to you. So I have to, when I was crazy and in pain the last couple of days, I don't remember when, I was in meditation. And I very rarely hear a voice outside of my own. And as I was like I was in pain and I was trying to go to sleep and I was asking why, I don't know what I was asking. And I heard a voice and it wasn't mine. And it was a female voice that sounded a little strange and weird, but it said, it's like it's coming in and out. And it said, they have to be careful because they've been threatened. And I didn't know what that meant because I was still under the idea of, these are random timelines. But now it makes perfect sense. So it makes me wonder if this guy's been threatened. Because the other thing is, why are they asking Anthony Daniels about a plot line in a movie? He didn't write the movie. He's an actor. He's a paid mannequin to stand there and say, literally in this case, he's paid to say lines that somebody else wrote for him. He's not paid to figure out why the deep themes of he's not, especially about wardrobe, he's not paid to figure that out. So, I'll read it for you. C-3PO is by far one of Star Wars franchise's most popular characters. Blah, 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 blah. For years, one of the biggest debates regarding C-3PO, now notice it doesn't say since the beginning of the movie, because that's what would have happened. If this happened in 1978, it would have said, since 1978, one of the biggest debates regarding C-3PO. It doesn't say that. It says, for years, one of the biggest debates regarding C-3PO has been whether or not he actually has one silver leg. Finally, the rumor has been put to rest by Anthony Daniels, the man who played C-3PO in every Star Wars film. You notice it doesn't say we got a hold of the writer-director. I forget his name. Why do you think that is? Why do you think he did? Because he would have said that. 1978, there would have been some interview saying to him, whatever the hell his name is, famous writer-director, why does C-3PO have a silver leg? And he would have said, I made that so that people would ask that he would have a complete silence. But Anthony Daniels, the actor, who made no decision about the character's costume, who made no decision about the character's lines, who showed up like an actor does, I've been one, and reads the thing and says what it faces the camera and says what he's supposed to say. He's going to give us these deep revelations. So he says, what does he say? Quote, one thing I want to remind you of. Back in the day, in episode 4, somebody else said this, sorry. Somebody else says, one thing I want to remind you of back in the day in episode 4, 3PO didn't have 2 gold legs. Oh, sorry. He did say that. This is important, so I got confused. The actor says, one thing I want to remind you of. Back in the day in episode 4, 3PO didn't have 2 gold legs, Daniel said. He had 1 silver shin. Now, if you're a study of human nature, you can tell he's lying. How do I know that? Because he starts off overselling the lie. Have you ever noticed when people are lying, they say, and I'm going to be truthful with you. And to tell you the truth, and I'm telling you the truth when I say, liars do that. The way this is written, he just volunteers out of the blue. One thing I want to remind you of, back in the day, in episode 4, 3PO didn't have 2 gold legs, Daniel said. He had 1 silver shin. Remember what I showed you. So this is him saying that back in the day, he remembers that he had one silver shin, except for, I have here in this movie, I have a picture of him. Where is he? I have a picture of him right there. That is him back in the day. Look, you can see everybody else on there. You can see all of the actors on there. That is on the set of whichever one that is. That's called a bold-face lie. Whoops, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to exit that. I want to exit this. Now, I don't know him. I can't say whether or not he's lying. I think it's possible that, he may have gaslit himself out of it. It's possible that the vibrations of the new past, which is the truth. Again, we have two truths. We have the truth of what's on the film that cannot be denied, that he has one silver leg, and we have the truth of this photograph. We have both of these truths. That photograph is just as real as the movie. They are both true. And yet, it is impossible for that to be the case. It is impossible for both of those things to be the case. And yet, there's no shortage of evidence that in the 70s, I was there. I saw that movie. I was 10 years old, 15, 12, I don't know, 15 years old, sorry. I was 15 years old. I remember the movie theater. I remember the people I was with. I remember seeing C-3PO walking in the desert and the gold glinting off his right shin. I remember, I could see it. And we have pictures to prove it. So I think it's possible, I can't say this for a fact, maybe he was threatened. Or maybe, in order to keep his sanity, he gaslit himself. But I would love to sit him down, because what I'm about to read is also going to fuck with what he just said. So you just saw the photograph from the 70s from the set. You also saw, from the set, you also saw the behind the scenes documentary. You saw that as well. That's from the 70s. That's the actual set. He doesn't have a silver right shin. Right? So you saw the picture, you saw this, you saw all the toys. It's obvious. I mean, if this was in a court of law, let me ask you this. If this was in a court of law and you had to prove the case that C-3PO did not have a silver shin, that at the very least Lucas went in and changed it digitally, you would win the case. Because here's a photo. Here is the behind the scenes documentary. Here are all of the toys up until 2006. You would have to, by the preponderance of the evidence, you would have to come to the conclusion that he actually had no silver right shin. Now, with that in mind, let me read what he says. Here's the story he says about it. He says, one thing I want to remind you of, back in the day in episode 4, 3PO didn't have 2 gold legs, Daniel said. He had 1 silver shin. This is him still talking. Oh no, sorry, this isn't him. Then whoever writes this says, although many people are aware of the discoloration on C-3PO's leg today, few people noticed it when episode 4 first came out. So you're telling me, as I sat in the front row, a 15-year-old kid in front of the huge screen, and his shin was taller than me, are you fucking telling me that I didn't notice that and everybody else all over the country who watched it, in the theater over and over again, are you telling me they didn't notice that? A lot of people didn't notice it. Although many people are aware of the discoloration, few people noticed it when episode 4 first came out. In fact, the difference was so hard to notice while filming, Daniels himself didn't believe it when their still photographer pointed it out. This is him talking, quote, "A lot of people didn't notice it," Daniels added, "and the reason is it was kind of subtle, and the silver actually reflected the gold of the other leg, and also in the desert, it reflected the gold of the sand to such an extent that John Jay, the beloved stills photographer," oh, the beloved stills photographer. You mean the guy who took this photo? Ah. The beloved stills photographer, on the last day in the desert, he came up to me and said, quote, "Tones, why are you wearing a silver leg today?" And I thought, a blind cameraman. Who knew? He goes on to say, or actually they say, even though it may not be immediately obvious why C-3PO would be created with one silver shin, Daniels had a rather simple answer for why he did. Quote, bear in mind, again, this is just the fucking actor. This isn't the writer-director. This isn't the producer. This isn't the costume designer. It's just the fucking actor. Quote, people still argue, does C-3PO have a silver leg? Daniels said. The point of the silver shin that would come to haunt me many years later in The Force Awakens was to say that 3PO had a bit of history, that he'd had some kind of drama before this. That's not how it works. That's not how, this is me talking now. That's not how it works. I'm a writer, I'm an actor, I've been a director. I tell you that's not how it works. Because the actor will come and say, not to mention the actor, the cameraman. There's also a person on the set who does a thing called continuity. And their job, you may not know this, their job is to make sure that the next day when I come back to shoot a scene, I'm wearing the same costume. If I have anything different, they're going to come and point it out and say, that's different from yesterday. So you're going to tell me that the continuity person didn't go to somebody and say, why does he have a silver shin? Shouldn't he be all gold? You're telling me no professional on the set figured that out. Sorry, it just doesn't work like that. There is no reality in the movie making business or the playwriting business or any kind of show business, music video business. There is nowhere in that business where somebody, the actor says, well, he's got a little bit of history, I think, maybe. Here's what he goes on to say. 3PO had a bit of history, that he'd had some kind of drama before this, but it was so subtle that hardly anyone noticed. There's no reality in any timeline where a serious film where that happens. It's impossible. Anyways, so there you go. I could go on and on and on, but that is just one example of something that just is awkward and doesn't make sense. The rest of them too. I mean, I could go, without taking up too much time, the rest of them as well. Luke, I am your father. I already told you, the actor said on camera twice, he reads verbatim that the script said that and now it doesn't. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Build it and they will come. Kevin Costner said that in the 80s or the 90s. He said, quote, build it and they will come. The writer and the star of Interview of a Vampire quotes that. Both of them quotes it way back when. It's now Interview with the Vampire. We are champions of the world. I lived then. I can guarantee you the end of the song, what was memorable about the song was that everything slowed down of the world. That was you. It was the crescendo of the. It doesn't make sense. It's meant to make you go, that doesn't, the way I remember it is a lot better. And so what you're saying is, I, a nobody, know better than talented perfectionist artists who are groomed and controlled and who are coached by producers, record labels. You're telling me that me, the nobody, the way I remember it is better than the original. Yeah, and I know a better ending to Vivaldi's, whatever. Play it again, Sam. Monopoly Man's monocle. Freddy Krueger sweater. The lion will lie down with the lamb. I already went off on that one. Anyway. All right. So back to the questions. So hopefully I've hammered that home. Literally. Let's see. Where am I? What page am I on? Let's see. What else? All right, here we go. Jedi Black Knight question. You taught the Woden meditation last time. Yes, I did. So do you recommend we do it before closing down at the end? Excuse me. Do I recommend that? I don't have a recommendation, but that is how I've been doing it. My recommendation is you can play around with any of these things. You can play around with the Woden meditation, but that is exactly how I've been doing it, the way that you just wrote. So if it works, don't fix it. I also do it by itself, too. So I hope that answers your question. Honest opinion. We don't do that here. Sorry. Honest questions, honest feelings. Let me explain why again. Let's see what your opinion is about before I go. It's sort of an interesting non-relevant opinion. Stay in, while you're with me, please stay in the open state of questions and feelings. That's where you're going to learn the most, and that's what I want. You can have your opinions, pick them up later and go back home, make your own videos, whatever. When you're with me, what I hope you'll do is stay in that open place of thinking. You can disagree with me all you want. That's fine too. Stay in that open place. Your opinions lock you down. I don't want you to stay locked down. Go lock yourself down later. Let's see. Somebody says, what about using the Wayback Time Machine for internet to check these changes? Has anyone tried it? I don't know what you mean by that. It would be great if you had like a serious question, an honest question. I don't know what that is. Because I just did. What else? Dre Shiva question. Could the Star Wars Mandela Effect be explained by differences between the original version and the re-released Star Wars Special Edition? Of course it could. Except I challenge you to go find anybody associated with the movie saying that. Please. If you can get Mr. Lucas to say that, I will believe it, because that's totally possible. So, Dre Shiva, I don't know you. I'm gonna be joking with you. Put the bong down and deal with actual realities. Hypothetical questions that evade looking at what's right in front of you don't help us. If that's a great question, go hammer that one out and see what you find. And if you can find that, if you can find something that makes sense, by all means. I mean, nobody wants things to go back to normal more than me. But I can guarantee you won't. I just read an article from the actor who says that that's what he did originally. So, let's see what else. Honest feelings, 09 Arts. A decade ago, when I'm still studying, I saw my friend's doppelganger, and that's not a feeling. You're sharing an event. So that's interesting, but that's not a feeling, 09 Arts. And you have an opinion after that. Interesting, but that's not what I'd like to see. Please don't take it personally. Runaway train, the simulation. So Zeralath keeps remembering things, and he's saying, this is how I remember it. So here's the thing. Now I can't say you're wrong for two reasons. Number one, now that we've seen, I have, maybe you haven't. But now that you did, the heart. You're the one that told me about the heart. So you believe in this. You just either gaslit yourself about C3PO. Because again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm telling you, Zeralath, it doesn't make sense. There's no fucking filmmaker in the world that would let that slip. It's not possible. Not without writing dialogue. At the very least, if it showed up and you couldn't get rid of it, I guarantee you, Lucas would have showed up and would have said, give me that one droid with the silver shin. He would have put it in there. There would have been one line where somebody would have asked C3PO, how did you get a silver shin? I guarantee you, it would have been there. No filmmaker worth his shit would let that slide and then not have anything to say about it. He's never once said anything about it. It's because it didn't happen. And we got the pictures to prove it. But you may remember things differently than me. You remember the word this, that thing. But again, remember the reality of the energy is that number one, your brain is going to want to gaslight you so that it'll make sense. So if you're not super emotionally attached to something, you will be easily gaslit out just to make sense. But the other one is, it's real. It really did happen. We have two realities that exist now. One is we have the pictures, we have the behind the scenes documentary, we have everybody's memory, including my own, and we have the actual film. We have both of these things, and both of them are real. Both of them are documentable. So that means that the new history that's been inserted, but we haven't fixed all the residual evidence, it means that that has the ability to come and influence, and then you will remember. You can. And if I watch it long enough and I am open to it, it would get inside my brain, and then I would remember being 15 years old, and I would remember seeing the silver leg. This is important. This is part of the message. Part of the message from the future is, guys, timelines are malleable. Time is not a constant. Time is an illusion. Wake up. You are a spiritual being. You can intend your reality. Wake up. That's the message of all of this. And again, this is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with anything important. I mean, a silver shin on a childish character in a crappy, childish sci-fi movie. What else? Do I see a question? Patrick.thunderwizard.com. Honest feeling. For the past few years, I have felt like reality has been somehow getting more absurd by design. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense now. And here's my feeling. My feeling is that these Mandela effects are getting more and more absurd in competition with the absurdity of the deep state. Everything that's happened with the and the lockdown and politics. I mean, it's gotten totally crazy. It was not this crazy 20 years ago. Wasn't anywhere near this crazy 20 years ago. You know, Patrick, you know as well. So I think that the deep state is doing its thing and has been doing its thing, which has had horrific effects on the timeline and on our potential future, and our future selves are inserting these things in order to just as absurd, to help us realize how absurd everything is. That has been my experience also. I shared, even before I shifted my opinion on a lot of things, just Trump. Let's just take that. By the way, I mean, I'm not anti-Trump anymore. I still think he's a narcissist and a criminal in a lot of ways, but we all know now that he didn't do many of the things he was accused of, and he would have been a far better president. Far, 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 far better president than Biden. Even though he still did some things, he's still a puppet of the deep state. Having said that, just him becoming president was absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. And it's just getting more and more absurd as time goes on. And in fact, my life is now a more insane sci-fi. Literally, my life is more of an insane sci-fi flick than anything Hollywood has ever come up with. They don't even have. Here's the thing that Hollywood can't even envision higher dimensions. The only film that I know of that's come close, has been Matthew McConaughey one. What was that? The one I'm talking about, where he goes into a tesseract and then teaches his daughter which is I was going to use that as an example. That in a higher dimension, you can't sit down and talk to somebody. You can go back to that time and you can see what's happening, but you can't reach them. They won't be able to hear you. But the things that that you can shift are things associated with gravity and with electromagnetism. And apparently, they can do something to shift events. I don't know how they do that, but I think I have an idea. I'll have to talk about that in another video. But I'm with you 100%. You say, for the past few years, I felt like reality has been somehow getting more absurd by design in order to get our attention, especially when it comes to the ridiculous politicians. Thank you. Zeralath question. Mahadeva, South America has moved hundreds of miles east. God is now almost level with Adam in the Sistine Chapel. Okay, I haven't looked at that. Listen, this is what I mean. I can't say you're wrong. I looked at that, and I looked at the maps, and the modern map now, that's how I remember it. But I'm not emotionally attached to it. So I could very well be in alignment with the new history. I can never say somebody's wrong when it comes to history anymore. I can't. there is no objective history anymore. All right, I don't know what that is. That's not a question. That's not a feeling. 09 Arts, honest feeling. I saw a video before that asked, what if your memory is not true, but something that is implanted in you every time you wake up? It makes sense, but doesn't make sense. Okay. Paul Kupari, you've been on the channel before. You know how it works. Write it in all caps, please. Honest feeling, I agree. I have Star Wars blankets. C-3PO is all gold. See, there's no way that they would do that. There's no way that they would make a Star Wars blanket for a kid and get it wrong. Why? Because the little kids are going to go, that's wrong. I don't want this one. They wouldn't buy it. Parents would be returning it, and the product would be, they'd have to go back and redo it. It would cost them millions of dollars. There's no way they would fucking do it. And he says 1978 is the year. I'm telling you, man. It's just so clear. Red Rex remembers Silver Shin, but he doesn't have a Star Wars blanket. And he doesn't have a picture from the 1970s. And he doesn't have a 1978 toy. Again, here, this is evidence. If I took this in court, you know, this evidence would weigh favorably. I did this just today. I went on to Etsy today, just before coming on, and this is what I saw. Look at it. Star Wars Original 1978 C-3PO. The original 1978, the first one that came out. Please try and convince me that it doesn't say on here, you know, like when there's a problem with, you know, like when a nickel, you know, has something backwards on it. You know, this was a misprint. That would be worth a lot more money. If this was a misprint, this would say original 1978, all gold, misdesigned. It would be worth thousands of dollars. Come on, guys, use your brain. Those of you who remember it differently, I'm telling you, you either gaslit yourself out of it or you allowed the new reality to come in and shift you. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. But look again. Star Wars Original 1978. All gold. Only $37, not $37,000. What else? Felix Jancic has 2 memories about Nelson Mandela. I'm not attached to that, but if I'm honest, I have 2 memories about it as well. But that was a time in my life I didn't pay any attention to that. So I could be wrong. So it wouldn't matter to me. If I could gaslight myself out of that and I wouldn't care because it wasn't something I was emotionally attached to. You know, and some people believe they remember New Zealand being northeast of Australia. Now, my only problem with that is, do you know somebody who lived in New Zealand who remembers that? And was New Zealand tropical? Because if New Zealand was north of Australia, it would be in the middle of the most tropical fucking ocean that existed. And New Zealand is cold as hell. It is colder than Canada. So that is, to me, an example of somebody who just didn't get their geography right and doesn't remember things right. It would be different if they said, yeah, and I went there. I spent a summer there. And we were there was a monsoon and it was the ocean was 85 degrees. I live in Florida. The ocean's 85 degrees. It's fucking a bathtub. You know when you're in a tropical place. So that one I think is, you know, there's plenty of stuff that people are misremembering. Maybe Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. Maybe that was the title. But as I say that, my stomach, I don't think so. But you could gaslight me out of that if you really wanted to. But New Zealand being in tropical waters, that I don't think happened. What else? Dylan Thomas says, found it. Google Chrome type. Oops, I did it again. Video 244. Click images. Scroll down until you see it in a batch of related results. At least we can find proof to chill. I guess you're talking about, you can see it, right? She's doing the thing and she adjusts her microphone. It's just so obvious. Again, there is no person, there is no professional, top of the line music video where every single slight little move of the finger, literally it would be, no, the finger needs to be down here, not here. That's how precise they are. She didn't just do this because she had something, you know, it was an itch or just, they wouldn't just let that go. It means that there was a microphone there. And the people who changed it left that part in on purpose so that we would catch it. What else? Runaway train. What is this? Going back. Sorry, I hate when this happens. This happens and then I have to back up to where I was. I don't know what you're talking about, runaway train. I mean, it looked interesting, but I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Paul Kupari again, pay attention, question in all caps. Maushan, I was listening. By the way, my name is not Maushan. That is not my name. Maushan.thunderwizard.com is not my personal name connected to my website. This is a practice. The Maushan is a practice. You say, Maushan, I was listening to your Mandela video a few days ago and my laptop shorted out. All right, that's not a question. That's not a question. Anyway, runaway train. Okay, here we go. I vividly recall Mandela being released from prison alive and subsequent interview with Ted Koppel on ABC Network. Yeah, that's not the point. The point isn't whether or not you or I vividly remember something. The point is it possible for two things to be true? For instance, it is possible that C-3PO it's not only possible, it is a fact. It is a fact that C-3PO had a silver leg. That's my point. I'm not saying people are trying to cover it up. It really fucking happened. The fact that I was there and it was different doesn't change the fact that history was changed. That's why we just read somebody remembers seeing it as a little kid. And yet somebody else has a blanket from 1978 where he's all gold. The original 1978, again, blanket, one thing, if it was one thing, again, that blanket would be worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Yeah, I have one of the original blankets that got it wrong. Nobody's saying that. Find anywhere in the 70s. I mean, maybe the people who are changing the timelines are hearing me and they'll go back and change it. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow it'll be there. But that's my point. The point is that there's two truths now. There are two pasts, and they're both accurate. They're both true. And that's impossible. Unless somebody from the future is changing completely, totally meaningless stuff that everybody remembers. That's the point. William Wallace, about I Love Lucy. I want to say it was one of the episodes where they lived at their second home out in the country. I don't know. I think I remembered it as one of the early ones. I think that's why it became iconic. Because by the time they were out in the country, it was already an old series. And I think it was the one where Lucy gets jealous of one of Ricky's dancers. It was in the first season. I think it was season 1, episode 10. But I can't find it, and I haven't been able to go through it. I'm piecing that together by doing research on it. But I remember it was one of the early ones, and it was It was while we were, and bear in mind, this is back in the 50s, and people are getting used to a non-white guy with a white woman on television. It was a big deal. So they played up his accent in order for all of the racist white people to laugh and get over the incongruity of it all. That's why it was so iconic. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. I remember, I can see it and hear it. Well, he said splaining, I guess, more than one, and I think you're right. I think he might have said it more than once. Again, the different realities are kind of getting blurred in my head because I wasn't that emotionally attached to it. Mitch, 543 question. I think I remember you touching on the subject before, but what are your thoughts on your students doing other kinds of energy work? Look, my thoughts are do whatever you want. So let me just say this. Do whatever the hell you want. The whole idea is to follow your instincts. Nobody here has joined a cult. If this were a different scenario and you were coming into my studio 30 years ago, I would say, if you want to study with me, you have to stop doing everything else. But that's ridiculous because I'm teaching via the internet. So I don't have any control over what anybody does anyway. So number one, I can't do that. All the stuff that I teach, all of the videos, I've taken out all the stuff that would prevent you from doing other stuff, because people are going to do other stuff no matter what I tell them. They're going to do it out of order. They're going to do it wrong. So I have to make sure that when I teach stuff that it won't hurt them if they mix it or do it wrong or something like that. So having said that, go right ahead. Mitch, this is my response to you. Are you one of my apprentices? I don't think you're one of my first level apprentices, because I don't remember ever having a session with you. Are you a subscriber to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge? If you are, my experience and my opinion, which could be wrong, is that you're not going to find anything that's going to get you more 4D and 5D energy. I just don't think it exists. Number two, how could you possibly have mastered even the free stuff on my channel, which is more than even all the stuff that's free on my channel? There's more stuff on there than anybody can master in one lifetime. Have you mastered the Hool breath? Have you mastered the Awakening the Immortals? Meaning, I got all the moves right. Yeah, but have you gone so deep in that the energy has become so intense that you can leave your body? Have you been able to do that yet? If you haven't, why do you need to do something else? It's a form of self-sabotage. It's called unconscious resistance. Unless you don't get anything out of the stuff that I teach, in which case, go find the stuff that does something for you. So you're asking me my thoughts. I'm telling you, it doesn't make sense. Shit or get off the pot. Pick one. I honestly, I've created this in such a way that I made it so that, number one, I created a system that I would want, because I am very self-motivated. And, 20 years ago, when I had teachers that wouldn't teach me high-level meditations, they just taught me the physical stuff, which was great, but they didn't tell me how to meditate. I actually looked for teachers to help me meditate on high-level stuff, and I couldn't find ones that worked for me. So I don't understand why somebody comes onto this channel, does these practices, and doesn't go, holy crap, I am going to dig into this. My thinking is, everybody wants, I want a little bit of this, I want a little bit of that, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. It's your resistance. Because if you keep changing things, you go to something completely different like high magic. And I've said very clearly, in my opinion and in my experience, Western magic it's like driving a 18-wheeler when you can be on an electric motorcycle. I don't know why, there'd be other reasons why people would like it. And again, it's not my thing. So since you're asking me, why waste your time? Take the amount of time and energy you would put to learn that whole brand new stuff or do all that stuff and go back to find out why I said in my previous video, if you haven't watched it, watch the video where I tell you why the 8-sided, it's right here. That is a tesseract. The floating, weird-looking cube is a tesseract. It is a four-dimensional space. We can't see it truly in 3D no matter how hard we try. But if a 5-dimensional being were to hold a 4-dimensional tesseract between us and the sun, that would be the shadow, which is the thunder wheel, which is what the Maoshan is, which is what everything I'm doing here is, even the free stuff. I focus on doing the 8-sided thunder wheel because now I know why. Because when you work with the stuff that I teach you, you're going to go into 4D and 5D energy. You will pull it into your 3D reality. You can shift. You can get to levels of energy that can't be done in many other systems. I can't say all other systems because I don't know. So you're asking my opinion. Why the hell would you want to drive a Maserati into the ocean and then drive a beat up VW that needs an oil change? Why would you do that? Just my opinion. Having said that, again, do whatever the hell you want. This isn't a cult. You can do whatever you want. I could give a crap. Make yourself happy. There's no wrong thing. Your experience will let you know what the right thing is. I'm telling you what mine is. But you asked, so I'm telling you. My opinion. Question continued, like middle pillar would be doing, I don't know what those are. Maybe they're brilliant practices, I don't know. But I teach the Heaven and Earth Qigong. Have you done that? That, in my experience, which was downloaded to me probably 12 or 13 years ago, that is still to this day the best practice of opening up the central channel and connecting heaven and earth, have all those energies go together. You've got it right here sitting in front of you. It's free. You can go on my channel and type in Heaven, Earth, Qigong. You can go to the playlists. Again, it makes me think you haven't been on my channel. You haven't investigated the playlists. Come on. Listen, do whatever you want. But I think I got a pretty thorough system here that will probably give you whatever you're going to looking for somewhere else if you want to stay here. If not, please feel free to mix and match. I have nothing but support for whatever the hell you do, as long as you're doing some kind of energy work and some meditation. That's really all that matters. Doing my stuff, doing somebody else's, it really doesn't matter. Kim B question, didn't Ricky say that in almost every episode? Then she would go, anyways, yeah, kind of the way I remember it. Kemsil question, is the phenomenon of all of us having our hearts on the left side of our chest related to the phenomenon of our planet being an oblate spheroid because it spins even though it's a sphere, except for the part that our heart isn't on the left side of our chest anymore? You don't believe me? Go to Google and just type in location of the heart. First thing will come up, it'll say heart is in the center of the chest. You can see me flip out 2 live streams ago when somebody, it wasn't that I didn't believe it. Somebody said, the heart has changed. It was Zerlath. He said, the heart has changed. It's in the center. I didn't go, I don't think that's true. I went, no, it isn't. I totally just dissed him like he was a complete moron. I apologize for that. But that's because it was just so obvious to me. It's not in the middle of the chest. Nope. Right smack dab in the middle of the chest. A little bit left of center now. The left ventricle is a little bit on the left side. Fucking crazy. Queen Marifa says, when did they change the verse in the Bible? Apparently, they changed it 3,500 years ago. This is the thing. Christians, born again Christians, I'm sure it's the same with other sects and Jews as well. That is a verse, even people who aren't religious know that because there are movies. There's a movie with that title. There are posters in Christian bookstores. In Christian homes, there are posters and pictures that are 30, 40 years old that have a picture of a lion with a lamb, and it says, "The lion shall lay down with the lamb, and a little child shall lead them." And there's a little child leading the lamb and the lion. And you don't ever see any with a wolf, because the new one is the wolf will dwell with the lamb. So when did it happen? When did they change it? Apparently it was never changed. There's a real history. You can go back 3,500 years and find the oldest texts of Isaiah, and you will see a wolf shall dwell with the lamb. It means that somebody went back in time. In the future, when did they change it? 1,000 years from now is when they changed it. Is that making sense? You're asking me when did it people become aware of this? I just became aware of it 2 days ago. So I don't know when everybody else became aware of it. But I haven't been following the Mandela Effect at all until just recently. Paul Kupari question. It says online, Ricky in I Love Lucy says, explain. All right, so Paul, yeah, you're there. That's the gaslighting part of it. So let's see. What is your question? I don't see a question here. So Paul, a question is you have a question. That's not a question. And a question is you're asking me something you think I have the answer that you don't. That's not in what you just did. You got my attention. It's a cheap way of getting my attention. If you have a question, write a question. If you have a feeling, write a feeling. An opinion, I don't know what that is. You say, sorry, the wolf will lay with the sheep. You're asking when did they change that? Yeah, it's not the wolf will lay with the sheep. It's the wolf. That's what makes it so intense. The wolf didn't weigh. It's not the lion shall lay with the lamb. It's not the wolf shall lay with the lamb. It's the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. That's a huge difference. It would be understandable, even then it wouldn't be understandable because I memorized that fucking verse. I said it 1 billion times. I read it in the Bible. I can see it. I can see it. Pastors said it over and over and over again. Never, ever, not once in my entire Christian career, which ended in the early 90s. Not once in my entire Christian career did I ever hear any verse that said, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. Not anything that even came close. A wolf in sheep's clothing, but that's different. It's just no fucking way. What else? Tsutsayodi, honest feeling. I am in shock. I vividly remember you saying that God comes from Gwod, a name for Odin, but now I cannot find that video. I cannot even find anything on the word Gwod anymore. Well, that may not be the Mandela Effect. That could very well be just YouTube deleting videos and not telling me. They've done that. If you want to if you want to look for videos that have been deleted, and there's been quite a few, you can go to odyssey.com, ODYSEE.com, and type in Thunder Wizard, and they have a copy of just about all of my videos, some of them that I didn't upload on here on YouTube on purpose, and some that I did upload that YouTube deleted and didn't tell me. Runaway Train did not notice it either. He says, I didn't notice it because it never happened. He was always solid gold. Yeah, I know. We're not crazy. We're not crazy. And neither are we crazy about The Queen song. The Queen song ends with "We are the champions of the world." That's how I sang that song hundreds of times in my Pontiac station wagon, my 1968 Pontiac station wagon as I drove to high school. In my, in my cassette player that I brought with me, my boombox. That's what we had to do back then. We are the champions of the world, and the song ends. You don't forget shit like that. I don't know what you're talking about there. Again, I'm really not interested in people's opinions. I'm interested in your questions. What else? Bone Man 538 question: in 5D, what will happen to wives or other as it pertains to intimate connections? I don't know. What a weird question. Sorry, I don't know what to do with that question. First off, I haven't achieved 5D yet, because if I did, you wouldn't see me. This is something, the new age kind of 5D thing doesn't understand. We're talking about science here, and this is a real fucking thing. The reason why when I do CE5 and ETs show up and they beam into the room that I'm at, and I can feel them, I can sometimes hear them moving around, they can take over my radio, but they can't talk to me. I can't necessarily hear them speaking to me, but things will explode out of my chest. Feelings and thoughts will explode from the inside of my mind, is because they're in a completely different dimension. And they can influence me, but they're not part of this dimension. And this, where'd it go? 5D thunder wheel, is that it? Yeah. So again, this is a representation, but that tesseract cannot interact with 3D. If it did, if that tesseract, that floating thing which represents a four-dimensional object or space, if that were to come into 3D, it would come in as a sphere. That's why when ETs show up, the vast majority of things you see are orbs. Many of the ships are orbs that they appear, and the reason why they appear and then they turn into 1, 2, 3 isn't because it's changing from 1 to 3 objects. It means that somebody in 5D is doing this. They're going like this. And you're just seeing the tips of the fingers. I'm using my fingers as an example. If that thing were to come into 5D, it would start as a tiny little, it would be the size of a peppercorn, and then it would slowly morph out like this, and then it might fly around, and then maybe another one will pop up next to it. That's why when we see ETs, things pop up and disappear. It's not just because they're magical, they are. It's because they're coming from a different dimension. So we're talking about a science here. So if I were to go into just 4D, forget about 5D. If I were to go into 4D, I wouldn't be here anymore. I could still see my desk and my computer, and I could go back in time and forward in time, but you wouldn't see me. So if people are really serious about 5D, that's why when you are in the presence of a 5D being, the energy is palpable, and if they touch you, or if they put energy into you, it's like nothing you've ever felt before, because it's not from our dimension. The fifth dimension has infinitely more energy than the third dimension. Thoughts have infinitely more energy. If you've ever felt emotions, like if you've been in the presence of an ET, their emotions are unbelievable. It's totally different from what you've been told. You've been told they're like automatons and they have no emotion. It's the opposite. If they share any kind of positive feeling, which is the only kind I've experienced from them, but if they like want to say to you, you know what, I like you, right? Like if a human says, you know, I like you, you get kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling. If an ET were to put into you the feeling of I like you, you would be overwhelmed with the bliss. You would fall in love with them. The intensity of their emotions is it's unbelievable, and it's because they're in a dimension that has just infinitely more energy than ours. The emotions are off the chart, which is why if they wanted to hurt us, they would have liquefied us long before now. What else? So what happens to if other? Okay, I don't know. Honest feeling. I've noticed. Zerleth, honest feeling. I've noticed the Mandela Effect may have started in the 90s, but unnoticed until 2009. Anyway, I don't know. I've wondered that myself. That's your feeling. I don't have a problem with that. I can't talk you out of that. Spectrum of Life question. I was doing the Summoning the Immortals the other day and felt slight pain in my peak. I felt a slight pain on my pinky finger. Those kinds of pains we get from electric shock. Is it supposed to come from out of the pinky? It means that, it probably means one of your nerves simply opened up. And remember, you have a nerve ending, here, but the meridian might have been over here somewhere. So something that was blocked opened up and it shot through the nerve and you felt it in the end of your fingertip. That's all that means. That happens all the time. When you do these practices, your meridians and your nervous system are going to unkink and open up. And so if you have slight pains in the joints or pain even anywhere, ends of the toes, that's where the meridians end. And so that's when you're going to feel it. At the ends of the meridians, you're going to feel it, even though it's going to be somewhere else. And that is a normal thing. That means that it's working. Cher B says New Zealand was close to the Great Barrier Reef. Did you live there? Do you know anybody that lived there? I was in New Zealand for 6 weeks when I was 18 years old. And there's no fucking way it was anywhere near the Barrier Reef. It was cold as fuck. So, forgive my language. Unless you lived there or you know somebody that lived there, I'm thinking you just didn't have your geography right. But I could be wrong. You could have lived in another universe where that was the case. The Ed McMahon's Publishers Clearinghouse. There was another clearinghouse that he was at least in this timeline, which I don't have a problem with because I'm not attached to that. But it was this. I forget. It was another clearinghouse that he was a part of. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not attached to it, but I think that's an easy, conflation. Dylan Thomas, apparently the actual Bible had copies changed. That's a whole other thing, Dylan Thomas. That's something that's actually not accurate. That's an old New Age conflation with things like that when people talk about the original Bible and stuff like that. I've made videos on that. So if you're talking about what I'm thinking of, that may not be accurate. No, that's for other videos. You can watch my other videos about Christianity, and I talk about the Bible and the original, how the Bible was compiled. The Bible wasn't written. So somebody didn't sit down and write the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. It was compiled from different books. So they didn't rewrite that. In fact, the New Testament wasn't ever rewritten. A lot of people say the New Testament was rewritten, the original New Testament, and none of that is true. In fact, the truth is that there wasn't a canon. The New Testament, all the books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of the epistles, those were gathered, and then it became, and there was a bunch of others, and then there was some that became more popular than others, and that became the New Testament. So it was never really ratified or codified. But people falsely say things like, the original Bible and the original New Testament, and I can tell you that that's not how that worked. Doesn't mean that there isn't a lot to uncover about the way that the Bible was put together. The original gospel that all the other gospels, meaning like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of those were written from actually the Gospel of Thomas, which is a totally different book. That is a really cool book. If that was the only book that existed, I would be talking about Jesus being a real teacher all the time. But that's a different thing. That's a conflation. People are saying conflation, confusion is I confuse this for something else. Conflation is two different things that get put together and people think it's the same thing. So talking about the new Bible versus the old, as opposed to the books that the books of the Bible were based on that weren't put in, that's a whole other discussion, but it's in that same feeling, right? Same feeling of they're screwing with us. What else? So, Red Pill Queen, that's not a question. That's not a question. Oh, good. So I'm glad, Mitch, you're not going to waste your time. Not because that other stuff isn't valuable. It's just, either learn how to do, if you're going to train in martial arts, either, learn how to be a fencer or, learn how to be a boxer. You can't box with a sword in your hand. You got to pick one. Do one at a time. Master boxing, then learn how to be a fencer, because the postures are totally different. The standing is totally different. Different qigong, different magical practices, totally different assumptions, different energies. It's just, it doesn't serve you. Anyway, I'm glad that you're going to stick with what I'm teaching, because I think the stuff I teach works. Felix Jansen knowingly asks me a disrespectful question. I'm not going to answer it because you know better. I could explain to you why it's disrespectful, but you already know. Why are you even going there? What else? Oh, so Mitch, you've been doing phase one. If you're doing phase one, definitely don't screw around with something else. You should have your hands full with phase one, doing the morning, the noon, and the evening practice here at thunderwizard.com. In case anybody's new, they don't know, you go there, you subscribe to the Lightning Qigong. I give you a morning practice, a noon practice, an evening practice. You don't have time to do anything else. What else? Kemso question, is it possible that we are infinite dimensional beings? Only the rest of ourselves are invisible to us because the rest of our senses are able to detect that are located in these dimensions. Not only do I think it's possible, I think that is exactly the case. That's the reason why we can do CE5. Let me get rid of this picture. That is the reason why we can do CE5. Because the only reason that we are able to guide fifth dimensional beings to our location and interact with us is because of our multi-dimensional consciousness. So consciousness is the source of all of the dimensions. I've been to the 11th dimension. At least I think it was the 11th dimension. I've shared about it when I was a kid, 7 years old. Boom, I went to the light. I've been there. And that is me. So I'm there now. This is just a three-dimensional holographic projection coming from that 11th dimension. So that means I'm in every other dimension that exists. But the game we're playing in incarnated life is we are experiencing 3D, and it wouldn't work if we experienced all the other dimensions. That's what happens to crazy people, and they can't function. They're worthless because they're in too many dimensions. So that is absolutely the case. Not only is it possible, Kemsel, my friend, I think that is exactly what is going on. The idea is that in our third dimensional projection, we want to vibrate closer and closer and closer to our soul. You have an 11th dimension right here in your heart center. Your soul is an infinitely tiny spark of light that is the 11th dimension. That's why all my teachings, the most important teaching I teach is follow the joy of your soul desire. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Dylan Thomas, all caps. What? Yep, freaking hard copies in my basement of the Bible. This is one of the things that happened. Christians were fighting amongst themselves. People like me that had read and quoted that scripture, heard it a billion times, had never heard the wolf scripture. The lion shall lay down with the lamb and a little child shall lead them. What's happened is that people, who are vibrating in the other dimension, usually younger people, are saying, no, that's actually not the thing. And then there's arguments. Go, no, I listen. And the older people are like, they're talking down. No, sorry, Junior. Look, listen, I've been reading the Bible. I've been a pastor for 30 years. I'm like, I'm telling you. And they'll go, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to dig up my 40-year-old Bible and I'm going to show it to you. And they get home and they find that old, worn-out Bible, their grandmother's Bible from 100 years ago. And they, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. And you never hear from them again because they're Christians. Because if they say that this has changed, they'll have to give up this whole idea that God's word is inerrant. They'll have to give up the whole Christian religion because the Christian religion is based on the word of God never changing. So this is the death nail in the Christian religion and the Jewish religion and the Muslim religion. This is it. The scripture changed. It's not the same. What else? I have a 1989 book of Bible quotes. I'm going to check. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'd be very interested in seeing that. Red Star 7311, honest feeling. I remember seeing Pulp Fiction and the light from the briefcase being red, but ever since then it has been gold light. Mandela Effect. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't disbelieve you. Whatever happened? Let's see what happened. Again, things moved around. I hate when that happens. I hate when things move around on me. Sorry, I need to get caught up here again. Spectrum of Life question. I was doing the Summoning the Immortal the other day and felt... Okay, I already answered that, sorry. Dylan Thomas, yep, I found a picture of the mic on her and plenty of toys and people pictures of this mic, talking about Britney Spears, yep. All right, sorry, that's old stuff. Felix Janis, no, 4D beings are seeable in 3D if they maintain a 3D constant form. Felix, pay attention, please. They're not visible in 3D. If they maintain a 3D constant form is a whole different variation on the equation. It means they have the ability. I already talked to you about what happens in 3D when a 4D thing comes into it. So you're conflating two different things. And again, I have no interest in arguing with you. If you have an opinion, you got your own channel. You and I have been gone through this back and forth. It makes me wonder why you come on my channel. What is it you get out of it? If if you disagree with me that much. You can disagree with me all you want. I just don't want to hear about it. What else? Um, and that wasn't even a question. Why did I even bother? That's why I don't read the questions. Mitch 543 question. As you mentioned, the Gospel of Thomas. What are your thoughts on the Book of Enoch? I don't have any thoughts on it. I think I probably don't like it. It's an apocryphal book anyway. It's not even anything. It's not even really associated with the Old Testament. It was written much later, etc., etc. James Moffat question: do you still think you know what shamanic death and rebirth is? I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, I don't know what the purpose of that question is. Again, the question is, you're asking me something that you don't know the answer to. That is, do I still think I know? I mean, that's like, it puts me in a defensive position. I either say, yes, I do know, or no, I don't know. Sorry, I don't like that question. I want to help you figure out here's the bottom line. How does that question help you? No matter how I answer that question, James Moffat, how does my answer make your life better? Unless this is a projection and your question is, I don't know what shamanic death and rebirth is. Can you tell me what it is? What is your opinion? Has your opinion changed? I want to figure it out. Then I can help you. But when you're putting me in that weird spot of having to say I know or I don't know, see what I mean? It's just not, as my teacher would call it, it's not good contact functioning. So try again. Okay, so that's not a question. Caedmon Vriher question: considering our emotions are important in this shift, extremely important, are your teachings still valid about being selfish, even though now love is the only thing that matters? Caedmon Vriher, how did you misinterpret my teachings so badly? I'm going to make a guess. You haven't read my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, right? Because there is no difference. Forgive me for saying so, but your question, and I want to answer it, I appreciate it, it's extremely codependent. Because you have, in your mind, there's a difference between doing something that's good for you and doing something that's good for others. You think those are two different things. Or at the very least, you think there's a possibility that they could be two different things, and they're not. This is the message of 5D, by the way. When you are in your soul, it is impossible for you to operate selfishly and harm anybody else. It is impossible because we are connected. To give you an example, you've got an alcoholic uncle who wants to come live with you, and he's living on the street. And he says, how can you be so selfish? I'm your uncle. You need to let me come live with you. And you say, Uncle Alcoholic, if you want to come live with me, go get sober. Go to the go to the church homeless shelter and get sober, and come back in a year. And when you have a job, you can come live with me. I don't want your craziness in my house. It's bad for my health. It's bad for my family. And so for my own health, I have to say no to you. And yet that is the best thing for him. He's going to hate you for it. He's not going to like it. He might end up drinking himself to death and dying. So you're not understanding the principle of it. And it shocks me that you even ask. That somehow now I'm now going to come into some new understanding of love. How is that love? How is doing anything that is harmful for me loving to somebody else? It sets a bad example. If I love somebody What I want for them is for them to be happy and successful. And if I do anything unhealthy for me, I am telling them to do something unhealthy for themselves. So again, I find that to be a very codependent question, which is, it tells me that you are in conflict about how you can love yourself. So the good news is that I can teach you how to do that. Read my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Read it over and over and over again until you understand that there's no difference between acting on your best interest and everybody else's. That if you understand the principle, you will never have to worry about that again. You will have situations where what is best for you is going to make somebody else unhappy, and they may hate you, but that's not the same as doing something unkind. Because it's not your job to give everybody what they want. It's your job to be self-sufficient and self-empowered, and in that allow them to find their self-empowerment, and then together you can both walk side by side down the path of honest, true, authentic, spiritual existence. Hope that explains that answer to that question. Felix Jancic says, I don't know, man. I again, Felix, this feeling of, I don't know why you're on my channel. You can be really hostile. And I've come this close to blocking you so many times. And that last thing just says that. It just lets me know that you really, anyway. You're free to do whatever the heck you want. I'm glad you showed up. I hope it was helpful for you. My apologies. All right, I'm getting cranky, as you can tell, so it's time for me to go away. So my friends, thank you so much for showing up today. That I'm really happy that I'm not suicidal anymore. And I know that a lot of you put some energy towards me and meditated for me in order to help me feel better. And thank you for that, because it worked. I was in a really bad state last night. But I'm here now, and I'm more excited than ever, and I'm even more excited to see more of the Mandela Effect, because now I know what's happening is that people who have our best interest at heart and are wanting to help us are changing reality in really absurd ways to let us know that we have the power to change our timeline, our present, and our future. And what's coming for us is where they are, and they're in a completely different dimension. As I said, that has completely different properties. And we are being given the tools to shift. In fact, our body is shifting. It's probably likely that in 4D and 5D, we're going to need to have all of our organs aligned in a certain way. So, yeah. That's it. I guess I've pointed out, go to all of the links. Again, it drives me crazy. People ask, where can I find your books, blah, blah, blah. And the link is right there the whole time. Am I pointing in the right direction? Yeah, the link is right there the whole time. Go to the links. If you want the high-level energy practice that I teach that'll get you closer and closer to 5D, then go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe. If you want to actually learn the most powerful way to literally pull 4 and 5D energy into your body, maushan.thunderwizard.com. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Again, as always, if I've done or said anything that's been hurtful, offensive, in any way caused you harm, knowingly or unknowingly, please forgive me. I'm doing my best, and it's also, it's coming from a desire to be helpful, even if I might not do it 100% correct. So that's it for me right now, guys. I wish you guys all the best. I will see you all next time.